I want to talk to you today about rejection. Think about it, have you ever experienced rejection or that feeling of rejection? I would say that if you answered no to that, you're probably not telling the truth and you're probably not remembering something that you've been through, because I think everyone at some point in their life have experienced rejection. And the problem about rejection is it's not really rejection that's the problem. And you know what, you're thinking, if I've experienced rejection and I've felt rejection, how is rejection not the problem? Well, I would like to change it up a little bit and tell you that the problem really is the desire for acceptance from other people. When we set this expectation on other people to accept us for who we are, we're setting ourselves up for failure. Not only should we be wanting acceptance from other people, but the problem is we should be wanting acceptance from God. See, what happens is we try to live our lives in such a way that other people approve of the things that we do and other people approve of the things that we say. But what we should be doing is saying, okay, God, you have created me, you have called me, you have a specific purpose for only me that only I can fulfill. How is it that I can do everything in my life to walk in everything that you've called for me? And when we come to that place of confidence that says, I'm walking in everything that God has called me to be, you won't desire acceptance from other people, because the only person that we should be expecting that acceptance from is God. And when we start walking in everything that God has for us, we can get to that place where, oh man, I think of this place in the Bible where God's in heaven and he looks down at his son, Jesus here on this earth, and he says, this is my son in whom I am well pleased. That's the place that we need to get to, where we're living the full life with confidence that God has called for each and every one of us. When I think about this, I think about Samuel. In 1 Samuel 8, it says, now it came to pass when Samuel was old that he made his sons judges over Israel, but his sons did not walk in his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain, took bribes, and perverted justice. So basically, all the elders of Israel gathered together and they came to Samuel and they said, look, you're old, your sons do not walk in your ways, so you need to make us a king to judge us like all the other nations. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. So Samuel prayed to the Lord. So you feel like you're walking in everything that God has called you to do, but someone says, hey, listen, I know that this is what you think should be happening, but this isn't really what we want. So it says that Samuel was displeased as what they said, so he goes to have this conversation with God. So I can understand, and many of us would understand, that if we feel like we're walking in the confidence, we're walking confidently in whatever God has called for us, and we have that confidence, and then someone comes up to us and they say, hey, we don't really like what you're doing. I could see where people could sense that sense of rejection and have that rejection kind of sit down inside of them that says, well, I was doing everything that God has called me to do. Why do I feel this way? However, I love what God goes to tell on to Samuel. It says, but the thing displeased Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. So he prayed to the Lord, and the Lord said to Samuel, heed the voice of the people. Basically, let the people have what they want and all that they say to you, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I should reign over them. We need to have a confidence when we're walking in everything that God has for us, because I'm not talking about having a confidence doing whatever we want to do and accepting or requesting acceptance from God. I'm talking about our sole focus should be walking in the fullness that God has for us and getting to that place of confidence that we can fully with confidence say, I'm doing everything that I know that God has called us to do. And I'm not saying you're walking, as the most mature person you could ever be, but on that path of maturity where we can come to that place that says that. And when people question it and say, listen, I know this is what you think that you should be doing, but we don't like it, you can say with confidence, I'm doing everything that God has called me to be. I'm doing everything that God has called me to do. So whether or not you like it or not, I don't have to feel rejection from you. Take it up with God. And I love that because God basically says to Samuel, listen, I know that you're feeling rejected, but they're not rejecting you because God's the one who placed a prophet over the children of Israel to lead them. And they had always been led with the prophet over their life. However, they looked around and said, well, every other nation has a king. We want a king. So we have to come to that place that says, listen, if I'm doing everything that God has called me to do, take it up with him because you're not going to convince me not to walk in the fullness that God has for me. And I don't have to receive my acceptance from you because the only person that at the end of the day that I want to say, this is my daughter or this is my son in whom I'm well pleased is God. I know there's a song that talks about an audience of one. He is our audience. However, there's many people that we live our lives in front of, and we should set those good examples for them, but they're not the ones that we need that acceptance from. So it's time for us to stop living our life within the confines of rejection. It's time for us to not let our identity define us through the rejections that we may have experienced in the past. But it's time to set those aside and say, God, I don't want to live that life anymore that experienced rejection. I don't want to define my life by rejection. But God, I want you to be the one that defines my life. God, I want you to set the tone for my life. God, I only want to walk in those purposes and the plans that you have for me. So that when I walk the walk and talk the talk that you have for me with confidence, Lord, I can enter into that place where you can say, wow, Ashley, this is my daughter in whom I am well pleased. Enter in your name there. That is the only acceptance that we should be striving for is that acceptance from God that says, well done, my good and faithful servant.